All right, and you guys have a lot of questions about social media addiction, and we're following your clicks and curiosity, and you guys want to know more about the Meta trial that's underway and what this all means for kids and their mental health. So let's break it down. We've got a fire lineup. We've got Brian Buckmeyer up first, then Dr. Alok Patel. Fellas, thank you so much for being here. Let's start with Brian Buckmeyer and the landmark case against Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram. Brian is here to help us make sense of all of this. Brian, break this down for me, man, because opening statements began today. States attorneys are calling Meta's product design dangerous and addicting to youth. They say that Meta knew of the dangers, but Meta says that these claims are substantiated. How does one go about proving something like this?
I think the person who said it best is probably the Deputy Attorney General out of California, and they said that this case is about Meta and the fact that they hooked their users, that they held them as long as they could through infinite scrolling and other algorithms and designs within the product. Then they harvested those people's information and they hid the fact that they were doing it. And if they can prove that Meta was aware of these practices and did so to the detriment of these users, especially children, and the big issue here under the child protection laws for privacy, that they hid and stole that information, that's how they're going to prove this case.
Well, Brian, we all know that you're a defensive specialist, so put that defense attorney hat on. What's Meta's best argument here? How is the company actually going to go about defending itself?
Yeah, so got to remember, there's a difference between whether or not social media harms individuals and whether or not Meta knew, was aware of it, and still did it anyways. And Meta is pushing back, saying they did not deliberately harm children nor mislead them when it came to their privacy rights or the dangers of social media. They're also going forward and saying, look at all the different things that we put in place in order to protect young people within this platform. They're completely denying these claims, calling them unsubstantiated.
Yeah, Brian, the potential damages here are like an astronomical number. $1.4 trillion in damages are at stake here. Meta is calling the financial demand, quote, vastly disproportionate. What are the plaintiffs demanding in this lawsuit, and who would get paid if they actually win?
So part of the reason why they're saying it's so disproportionate is because currently Meta's market capitalization is $1.4 trillion, about the same amount that they're asking for in here. And I understand that we've seen this case, or a very similar case, both in New Mexico as well as California, and they were successful, those states, in suing Meta. So the idea of where this money goes comes up. Well, in practice, the state would get the money, but the idea is that the money would go to different programs or initiatives to help individuals who are harmed by these programs. So you'd expect that in New Mexico and California, and potentially in the 4 other states that are leading this charge, representing 29 other states, that if they're successful against Meta, we should see initiatives and programs for young people helping them with social media addictions.
Brian, before I let you go, help me get back to basics here. Why would Meta or any company be responsible for anyone becoming addicted to their products? Do we have laws that say anything about this?
So it's two things here. It's one about misleading your customers, saying that you're doing X or Y instead doing A, B, C. And here, what the plaintiffs are saying is that Meta knew how addicting this product was. In fact, they created it in a way to do so. Think back like decades before when you had litigation about the tobacco products and how they were purposely targeting young people and other individuals. Now, the tobacco products have changed their ways, but the argument is that social media is going by the same playbook. The other issue is about child privacy laws. Those are on the books, and part of the allegations here is that Meta is harvesting this information from these young people and using it in a way that is misleading and untrue to their platform ideals and values.
You went to law school, so you didn't have to. Brian, you're the man, dude. Appreciate you. Let's bring in pediatrician Dr. Alok Patel. Dr. Patel, thank you so much for being here, man. It is so good to see you. One of the breakout searches we're seeing right now is just how social media addiction is actually defined. What are the warning signs to look out for?
Well, Ashin, as we talk about this, I have a feeling that some parents, teens, or people who use social media every day might identify with some of these features. So when we talk about social media addiction, we're really referring to a broader category called problematic media use or problematic technology use. And this really comes down to people who just can't put down their phone. They're checking their social media apps, their notifications right when they wake up. You might experience anxiousness, irritability, or fear of missing out, or FOMO, as the cool kids say, if you are away from your phone. And one of the hallmark features that we worry about in medicine is that it disrupts people's normal life. They're disrupting their sleep, their schoolwork, interacting with other people. They're staying home rather than going outside. And their days really seem to be centered around checking that device. There are some studies that show us that teens are checking their phones around 100 to 200 times a day, looking at those little notifications. So if you start to see that social media use is disrupting your ability to work, live, eat, and function like a normal member of society, that might be problematic media use.
Yeah, for sure. Dr. Patel, talk to me about it on the ground level. What are you seeing in clinic? What are you seeing in your patients as it relates to the toll of social media on youth? And have you personally linked social media use to things like anxiety, depression, sleep, and attention issues, those things you just mentioned?
I'm glad you asked, because physically, and a lot of physicians will agree with me on this one, is we see kids constantly scrolling on their devices. And then we've also seen these associations with many multiple mental health issues, such as anxiety, depression, body dysmorphia, kids comparing themselves, having these unfair social norms to other children as well. We've even seen links to self-harm, suicidal behavior. And then there's physical issues such as kids having disrupted sleep. But again, and this is something to think about not only in the journalism world, but also in the legal world, these are all studies that have shown us associations, not necessarily causation. But Ashton, one of the biggest concerns is what social media is replacing for kids, especially at a time when their brains are developing and they're learning about themselves, the world, and interactions. It's replacing that time they're spent outside interacting with people, moving around, paying attention in school, at home, etc. And that's really what this boils down to, is what are we doing to our kids right now in a time? It feels like an uncontrolled experiment.
For sure. Dr. Patel, I need the final word from you. Lay down the law for the parents out here. What should the role of parents be doing in their households for these kids and social media addiction?
Well, keeping it simple, there are some benefits to social media. I got to be real about that. There's education, there's community, but there's also some serious harms as well. Parents need to be empowered and have those conversations with their kids, teach them how to be empowered, smart citizens, and set some ground rules about keeping phones away at the dinner table, at bed. And also, parents need to be engaged in conversations with school. But Austin, I want to really emphasize that 10, 15 years ago, a lot of this was placed on parents when we talked about screen guidance, but the conversation also needs to involve industries and tech, the federal government, schools. It has to be an all hands on deck approach. It's
not just a conversation for the dinner table. It's a conversation for us as a country. And that's why we're having it here on Search. Dr. Patel, I appreciate you, man.
You nailed it. You nailed it.